who was the moderator? My good friend Dan Rather. So I said, oh, Ron, what do you do? I don't know, I'm not doing much. I'm retired. And what are you doing? You're retired. I said, I'm training people to be little young Dan Rathers. Teaching the younger generation how to do it. I just wanted to add one point with regard to my CV. I know where I come from. I mean, I didn't learn my history or the story about the conviction or the vindication of why we're there from Exodus, from Paul Newman. That was a good move. I wish we had one today. I learned it from my great-grandfather, who came to Palestine in 1879, a fifth-generation Israeli. He came from Dnepropetrovsk. He was armed with a Bible and a rifle. The Bible, his business guidebook, land and milk and honey. That's how he made his first business with Arabs. The rifle, just to be on the safe side. You know, if anyone messes around with Red David, he knew how to do it. In addition to that, he did the prayers, but at night. He worked during the day and prayed at night. And so most of what I feel about Israel comes from the ground. I was born on the land. I was raised on the land. I became spokesman back then by I think maybe a historical accident, a personal historical accident at the age of 7. My father was sent as the founding father emissary of Young Judea, 1956. And I ended up in Brooklyn, New York, because my father could not get an apartment in Manhattan. He looked too dark. So the Jewish landlord, they sent him to Brooklyn. So I grew up in Brooklyn. 3 years on the streets of Brooklyn, and you don't learn much English. You learn street fighting and street language, which comes out very handy when you have to speak on television on Al Jazeera with the Arab audience. In other words, they don't like me, but they respect me, and I don't take prisoners. I just say it straight. Like in Brooklyn. Brooklyn, you learn if you don't speak out, you can't stand your ground. You want to stand your ground, you got to speak out. You say what you think. And so, by the way, I don't think the world establishment doesn't like it. The foreign ministry doesn't like my style, but I train people to do special forces operation. Talking about special forces operation, I mean, the best way to start is from the end, not from the beginning. And what happened in May 1st? May 1st, you know, the Remembrance Day for the Holocaust. They put a bullet in the head of Osama bin Laden. Stripped of all the narrative, this would have been like a chapter from The Sopranos. You know, they sent the hit squad to put a bullet into the head of the villain. The contract on his head lasted for 10 years, and that's it. But there is the whole story behind it, you know, what happened there. And, you know, I was reflecting on that. And I recall in 2001, that was about 3 months after 9/11, won the election. The first trip we make is to the United States. We don't go to Washington, we go first to Ground Zero. We come to Ground Zero, Sharon visits Ground Zero, he meets Giuliani there and the whole thing. We come to Washington. The meeting, the president meets us at the White House, and the whole entourage of the Senate. We're sitting around the table, you know, and just the introductory said, you know, Sharon tells him, you know, George, I just came from Ground Zero. They were on personal talk, George and Arik. And he said, what was your take of it? He said, this is really, you know, what we feel for the American people. And George Bush said, and we feel for you, because now we know we are all Israelis. In other words, the feeling of being all Israelis, in other words, being under attack, being on Ground Zero. We were at Ground Zero 70 years before. Not just a couple of thousand people in New York, but the whole nation was on Ground Zero. You know, facing this sense of physical threat to the very existence. Something the United States was spared of because of 2 major allies who deceived you in 9/11, the Atlantic and the Pacific. They deceived you because bin Laden came over here. They came and knocked the planes into the Twin Towers and the Pentagon. But the feeling, the sense was we are all Israelis. And then 10 years pass, I'm in New York, I get a buzz from Israel, they took out bin Laden. I go the next day, I go to Times Square, I go to Battery Park, I go to Ground Zero, and I see the elation and the happiness. Again, acting like Israelis. After the Entebbe raid, after the operation in Beirut or anything. This was really America coming out. And above all, and above and beyond everything else, is the president. The president who was suspect of trying to engage the Muslim world and the Arab world in a dialogue, in talking to them, in trying to gain the support of love. Failed to gain the support of love, but gained the respect with 2 bullets in the head and the heart of Osama bin Laden. Again, a president who was not so much for Israeli policy in the West Bank, or settling policy, but he settled for the Israeli policy how to settle scores with terrorists. He did it the Israeli way. He didn't do it my way, his way, he did it the Israeli way. And it tells you something about, more than it tells you about the fact that he's a president doing a shared value and the shared position we face today in the world, facing the threats that are facing both the two nations. The threat of fundamental Islam, which goes deeper to the question of just a physical threat to the existence of the United States, but to the way of life, to the way we look at life, the way we appreciate and cherish life. And here was just a clear signal to the Arab and Muslim world. You want to engage us? Fine. But it's going to be on equal ground. Remembering very well, maybe not admitting it, what Theodore Roosevelt, the great president of the United States, not a Democrat, maybe a Republican, but he said it, talk softly, walk softly, but always carry a big stick. Finally, Obama has a stick. Will he wield it? The time will tell. But he did the right thing. He did the right thing in terms of trying to stand up for American values. I want to tell you what the lesson that Obama learned the hard way. I learned it throughout these years, and I can tell you, you can't gain their love. They don't love you. They won't love you. There's a whole body of I would say, antecedent culture that is anti-West, that is anti. There's a whole feeling of, and there's a whole culture of incitement that goes on, not just against Israel, but against the West in general. And you can see now the repercussions of the bin Laden assassination, how it's viewed in the Arab world. And the only thing you can do, you want to deal with, I don't say you have to fight it to the death. You can do business with the Arabs like my great-grandfather, but they have to earn their respect. Not their love, their respect. And I think what President Obama did, and did earn, time will tell if he uses it wisely, he earned the respect. Now they say he's not kullu kalam fadi. In Arabic, kullu kalam fadi means all talk. He's not all talk, he does things. But we like it, we don't like it, we have to deal with it. Well, there is an opportunity here for the United States, if you want to really get the Middle East eventually out of this vortex of change to become democratic, then you have to engage the United States.
Renan, he showed American power.
Yeah, that's
American power.
That's a stick, the stick. And that language is understood in the Arab world. It's understood in Pakistan, it's understood in Islamabad and Abbottabad, and all those places, they understand it. They won't admit it, a jihadist, a martyr, fine, but let's come to terms and see what will happen. Of course, there will be repercussions, there will be efforts by the other side to do it, but I think if the United States continues now with what it did, it can really take Al-Qaeda apart, or really splinter it up to its splintered components, but then it will be much less effective than it is today. Taking it all together out, that I should leave to the other terrorist organizations in the Middle East who don't want Al-Qaeda to be the ruling elite of the terrorist movement. Everyone wants Al-Qaeda to be over there, but not on our turf. Even Hamas, they pay lip service, but they don't allow them into Gaza. So there's a lot of things that, sometimes what you have to do is move the chess pieces on the board and create and start a new game. Well, there is a new game now. And the game that we're seeing in the Middle East, this is really interesting, is really a new game. Since 1917, and given the fact, given what happens to Israel in the past few years, the process of delegitimization, the only real legitimate state, I'm talking not by Israeli biblical standards, by international standards, a state that is governed by the people, for the people. Democracy. Arabs participate in life, everything. A legitimate state. It's the most stable state in the Middle East. All the other countries, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Egypt, regime was not legitimate. How did it govern? It governed by fear. Now, when you govern by fear, of course, the terms we use in political science is a tyranny, a theocracy, a dictatorship. That's true. But as long as the fear was one directional, unidirectional, it went from the rulers to the ruled, that was fine. Suddenly, the great revolution that occurred in the Middle East is not the Facebook revolution. Facebook and Twitter and the new technology created a new environment for young, restless, frustrated, jobless people. 50% of the population of the Middle East, depending 50 to 60%, are below the age of 24. These are young people. They see the world. They go watch television, they watch Facebook. They have friends on Facebook. They have many entries on Facebook. In the past, when Hafiz Assad, the father, wanted to massacre 20,000 people, the world didn't give a damn, and neither did the people were afraid. What changed? Why is it that these people keep coming to the square in Tahrir, in Egypt, in Dara, in Syria? Why are they running? Why are they not afraid? You know why? Because now they're an icon. Now they are celebrities before they die. Millions of people watch them on Facebook and they come out and say, tomorrow I'm going to go to the square, knowing very well that he may die. But he's going to die with glory, with the whole world seeing his picture. So they're not afraid. They keep running against the bullets and the other side keeps shooting them.